welcome to Cory's Stories. Are you ready to meditate with Cory?
Hello, my little friends. I just wanted to take a quick minute before your meditation story to say hi and thank you, and I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you for listening to my stories. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel and like your meditation or your video if you liked it, and make sure to press the bell so that you get notified every time I bring out a new story. One last thing. If you love Heidi, Cherry and VAYA or Tucker and Leo stories, you can join the cat club or the dog club. Go to my Patreon link down below. I leave it there on every meditation. Talk to your parents or your guardians about whether you can join my Patreon group. Hope you have a wonderful time listening to my story. Bye. See you next time.
Are you ready to meditate with Cory? Make sure that you're all comfortable, snug and warm in your bed. You're wearing your comfortable pajamas. The light is just right in your room. And you can relax your body and let go of your busy day. Corriannda was very excited because it was fall. Fall is her favorite season. She loved to walk through the woods when all the leaves in the trees were yellows and golds and bright red. Her favorite was the crunchy leaves underneath her feet. It was like the leaves had a voice of their own, and they would crackle and crack and pop and talk to her as she walked on her walks every day. She liked to look at the trees that had already lost their leaves. They reminded her of people, their arms bare, reaching up to the sky, like ghosts. Moo! She walked through the forest. She'd been shopping earlier that morning, and now she was in her kitchen preparing for what she was going to be doing, which was one of her favorite things to do for autumn. She was going to make a pumpkin syrup. That way, when she had her hot milk or her iced milk, she could add pumpkin syrup to it and it would taste like a pumpkin latte. It was dreamy and creamy and very sweet. And she had a very good recipe for it. Over the years, she'd added lots of different things to her pumpkin syrup. One year she added a sprinkle of black pepper, and it created a nice warm feeling in her tummy every time she drank it. But this year her recipe was different. She got one of her favorite copper pans off the shelf, placed it on the stove, closed her eyes before she even started, and made a special wish. She put her hands over the pan as if she was dropping ingredients into them, but at this point she didn't have anything in her hands. And with her eyes closed, she wished for all the autumn warmth, the special energy, and all of her perfect things to be included in her pumpkin syrup. She opened her eyes And the first thing she put in the pan was half a cup of brown sugar. Then she added 1/3 of a cup of condensed milk, which she always licked off her fingers because it was sweet and sticky and delicious. Then came the pumpkin puree, just 1/4 of a cup. She added a teaspoon of pumpkin spice, a cup of water, and then she started to stir. She stirred and stirred and stirred until all the sugar melted and the ingredients mixed together. She added the tiniest pinch of salt, just to bring out all the flavors of her ingredients. And then she turned down the heat, let it cool for a little bit, and poured it into a mason jar that she was going to keep in the fridge. She was thinking that tonight, while she read her book, she would drink a pumpkin latte. But she couldn't wait. So, even though it was only 3 o'clock in the afternoon, she ran upstairs and put on her favorite pajamas. Pumpkins and black cats all over them. They were warm and fluffy, and they felt velvety to touch. They were long pants and a button-up long shirt, and she'd had them for a few autumns now, and they were her favorite. She put her hair up in a ponytail, put on her fluffy slippers because the house was cold at this time of year. She wanted to keep her feet warm. And then she lit her pumpkin spice candle in her bedroom and a stick of incense, because she always, no matter what time of year it was, loved the smell of her incense. And then she went back downstairs, warmed up a cup of oat milk, and poured a generous amount of her pumpkin syrup inside and stirred and stirred and stirred. She learned a spell 5 years ago that allowed her to make her spoon stir on its own. And as she walked away to put the pumpkin syrup in the fridge, the spoon kept stirring and stirring and stirring. And she giggled because she always loved that spell. She grabbed a hold of her pumpkin latte, walked upstairs. Her room smelt beautiful already. It smelt like autumn. She felt all autumny and snuggly inside. She climbed on her bed, opened her book, and took the first taste of her pumpkin latte. It was warm and sweet and absolutely perfect. She closed her eyes just to savor the taste. And then she took a big, deep smell, breathing in through her nose, sniffing her latte, and how perfect it was. She found the bookmark in her book and opened it to the page where she left off. She was reading quite a funny book about ghouls and goblins, preparing herself for Halloween, wondering what she would do this time. It had been quite a few years since she held a party, so she was thinking maybe she would throw a Halloween party. and invite all of her favourite witchy friends. That might be fun. Maybe she'd make it a theme where everyone had to dress up as their favourite monster. Her favourite monster of all time was Frankenstein. She thought the bolts on his neck were quite cool, and the fact that he'd come to life was very cool to her. And then that made her think about those frogs that just go to sleep, and it's as if they've died. And they just go to sleep in the mud until the next season comes along when it rains again and the mud wakes up and frogs wake up, and it's as if they were never, ever asleep or dead. Do they die? Or do they just go to sleep, like when bears hibernate? She read about 20 pages of her book and finished her pumpkin latte. Her room was nice and warm, and it had started raining outside, so the rain was hitting the windows, making the perfect pitter-patter sounds. She decided that the only thing that would make life better right now in this moment was a pumpkin muffin. She had some pumpkin puree left. Maybe she would go downstairs and make muffins. She looked up a recipe and decided to put some of her magical powder in it that the recipe didn't include. The magical powder that she added to the muffins was one that she used rarely, but it was very special. She sprinkled some in the mixture at the last moment, but everything else about the pumpkin muffins was ordinary. Sugar, milk, eggs, flour, pumpkin spice, some salt, some bicarb, some baking powder, sugar, and lots of love. She sprayed oil all over her muffin tins and put the mixture inside of them, and then sprinkled some of her magical powder. Half an hour later, she took the muffins out of the oven. They were perfect, smelled delicious. She popped one out of the pan, put it on a plate, and brought it upstairs and let it cool for a few minutes. She read more pages in her book. And then after about 5 minutes, she tasted her muffin. Absolutely delicious. And then the magic happened. Meow, meow, meow. So many meows. Meow, meow, meow. So many meows. Meows from every direction. Meow, 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 meow. She smiled and got up and looked out of her bedroom window. There must have been 200 cats outside of her house, all saying hello in their own special way, meowing at the top of their lungs. The magic powder that she used was a cat-gathering spell powder. Whenever she needed all the cats in the neighborhood to come by so that she could talk to them, or just need their energy, or maybe use their special powers in a spell, then she would use her magical cat-gathering powder. But today she just wanted to see the cats. She waved at them through her bedroom window, and they all meowed louder. Meow, And then after about 5 minutes, they all just went about their days as if they'd got no clue why they ended up outside of Corriannda's house. She loved that one. That spell was one of her favorites. Along with, the magical power that she put in her pumpkin syrup. That was definitely at the top of the list in autumn. Corriannda got back on her bed, read more of her book, and then, without realizing, had a really long nap. She fell asleep and had the best Halloween dreams. She saw herself dressed as Frankenstein, hobbling around the room like a big giant monster, all stiff and robotic, and everybody thought she looked very funny. The end.